What are some common misconceptions about medieval history? That kings held absolute power. When we think of medieval monarchs, we often think of this. King Joffrey from Game of Thrones. Kings with absolute power, ruling their realm absolutely with no checks on their power. In reality, it was much more complicated. See, medieval kings actually weren't absolute monarchs at all. Absolutism is a thing of the early modern era. Instead, medieval kings had numerous official and unofficial checks on their power, with the nobility, clergy, and wealthy commoners serving as a counterweight to royal power. Medieval kingdoms were also extremely decentralized. To illustrate, this is a map of France around 987 AD. On this map, only the areas in blue were actually controlled by the king. Yep, you got that right. The only areas the French king actually controlled in France were Paris and Orleans, as well as a few pockets in northern France here and there, meaning the French kings around this time only directly controlled maybe 5% of France. All the rest was ruled by counts, dukes, bishops, some mayors here and there, who functioned less as governors, as Charlemagne had originally intended it, and more as highly autonomous tributaries who paid their taxes and provided troops during war, but were otherwise completely independent. In England, there was also already a parliament as early as 1236, which had great influence over taxation, and thus the royal income, making the English kings heavily dependent on said parliament. France also had the Estates General since 1302, which gathered representatives from France's three estates: commoners, nobles, and clergy. So, really, medieval kings weren't all powerful. They were powerful for sure, but not nearly as powerful as we often think they were. In fact, I would argue that this guy, Emmanuel Macron, President of France, has more power over France than this guy. Saint King Louis IX, King of France from 1226-1270, could have ever even dreamed of. So no, medieval kings weren't absolute monarchs. Far from it, they were actually severely limited in their power.